Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now let's get into today's tale. Whispering. In the kitchen when they saw me, she said, "We were just discussing boundaries, specifically yours." He nodded. "You should stop going through her cabinets and asking questions." I had just noticed $800 missing from our joint account. When I checked again, it was transferred to her. I printed the bank statement and taped it to the fridge. Then I canceled the joint card and sent them both a screenshot. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to post something like this, but sometimes you just need to get it out and maybe show others they're not crazy for trusting their gut. So here's what happened. We live in a quiet part of Canton, Ohio. I've been married to my husband Ethan for 6 years. Not a perfect marriage, but we were stable, or so I thought. I work full-time as a shift supervisor at a logistics warehouse, and Ethan's a self-employed web designer, but lately it felt like I was the only one actually self-employed. I handled all the bills, I tracked our spending. Ethan barely looked at our finances, unless it involved buying something new for his home office. His mom, Margaret, had always been around too much, if I'm honest. She lived about 15 minutes away and popped in without calling all the time. Just showed up and acted like she owned the place. I used to try being polite, offered coffee, small talk, the usual, but she always had a way of saying things with a smile that made you feel like garbage. "Oh, you don't cook with butter?" Or, "Is that your real hair color?" And Ethan, he always defended her. "She's just old-fashioned," he'd say. "You know how she is." Yeah, I did. Anyway, last Tuesday, I came home from work and found them in the kitchen, not sitting or chatting, but whispering near the sink like they were hiding something. It got quiet the second I opened the door. They looked up like two kids caught with their hands in the cookie jar. Margaret turned to me with that tight-lipped smirk and said, "We were just discussing boundaries, specifically yours." I blinked, then Ethan, without even looking embarrassed, added, "You should stop going through her cabinets and asking questions." I didn't even know what the hell that was supposed to mean. Her cabinets? Questions? But something in me went ice. Cold because I had been going through something earlier that morning. Our bank account. See, I was paying the gas bill and noticed the balance was off. Way off. I double-checked and found an $800 transfer labeled only as external transfer. I didn't recognize the account number it went to, but something about it felt familiar. I clicked through our transfer history, and my heart started racing. It went to Margaret. I didn't confront Ethan right away. I didn't even mention it at work. I printed the transaction history that night, slapped the printout on the fridge, and went upstairs without a word. When I heard them talking again in the kitchen later, I didn't go down. Instead, I canceled the joint card and transferred the rest of the money to a new personal account in my name. Only then I texted them both screenshots with one sentence, "Nice try." That's when the real war started. After I sent that screenshot, Ethan came storming up the stairs like a man who just realized the ATM was dry and the sugar mama shut the kitchen. "What the hell is this?" he said, holding his phone up like he was the victim. "Why would you cancel the card? You're being dramatic." I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd shared a bed with for years. I used to trust him with everything. Now, I couldn't even trust him to tell me why $800 of our money went to his mother. Finally, I said, "Tell me why you gave her the money, and don't lie." He blinked. "She needed it for her car insurance. It was overdue. She has her own income." I said, "She gets Social Security, she still works part-time, and you've told me yourself she has savings. So why is she taking our money without telling me?" He flinched at that because he knew I wasn't wrong. "She just needed help," he mumbled. "I didn't think you'd mind. You didn't think you'd get caught," I snapped. That shut him up. He looked at me for a second, then turned and walked out. Not another word. That night, he slept on the couch. I didn't ask him to. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. He didn't bring up the money again, and I didn't press him. I was watching him now, closely. Every text, every bank notification, every glance between him and his mother, something was off. Then I saw it. A new charge popped up on our Amazon account. $12 for a vacuum cleaner, but it wasn't being delivered to our house. It was going to her address. I didn't even wait. I drove over to Margaret's that evening without telling Ethan. When she opened the door, she looked surprised, but not guilty. Not even a little. "Oh, honey," she said. "If you're here to talk about the money, I already told Ethan it wasn't a big deal. You didn't need to get so worked up." "I canceled the order," I said, stepping inside. "The vacuum? It's not coming." She smiled like she was talking to a toddler. "You're not really going to make a scene over a few hundred. We're family." I stared at her. This woman really thought she was above me. Like my role in their little game was to just hand over my paycheck and smile. "No," I said. "You're not my family. You're a parasite." She gasped. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," I said, and I left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell, but I knew something in her cracked that day. That night, Ethan didn't come home. I called once, no answer. I didn't call again. At 2 a.m., I heard his key in the door. He smelled like whiskey and self-pity. He didn't say anything, just crawled into bed and turned away from me. The next morning, I found his phone left on the bathroom sink while he showered. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Text messages, dozens between him and Margaret, and in those texts, she was saying things like, "She's too controlling. You never should have married her. If we move the account now, she won't see it. Just sign the loan in your name. I'll pay you back." She had used him. She had manipulated him. But he let her. I screenshotted every message and sent them to myself. Then I made a plan. The screenshots were worse than I first thought. There were conversations going back months. Ethan and Margaret had been working behind my back like it was some kind of joint business venture. She'd ask him to borrow money from our account or use my name to apply for pre-approved offers she found online. One message made my stomach twist. "She'll never check the mail. Just sign it and I'll handle the rest. What the hell had they done?" I dug into our credit report, shaking the entire time. And there it was. 2 months ago, someone had opened a store credit card in my name. Not Ethan's, mine. I never got a card, never saw a statement, but the account was active and had over $2,000 charged to it. I called the company immediately. It was registered to my name, but the delivery address, Diane's house. Again, that was it. I was done. I took the next day off work and met with a lawyer. I wasn't ready to file for divorce just yet, but I wanted options. I brought every screenshot, every bank statement, and every transaction I had printed out. She looked me in the eye and said, "You have enough to prove financial abuse, possibly fraud." She explained what I could do, how I could protect myself, how I could start separating my credit file, police reports, even go after Margaret in civil court. When I got home, Ethan was sitting on the porch, half drunk, staring at the mailbox, like it might explode. He saw me and stood up. "I know you've been snooping," he said. "Snooping?" I laughed. "You committed fraud. Your mom opened a credit card in my name. You co-signed it. He didn't even deny it. She needed help," he said. Again, like that line was supposed to fix everything. "She didn't mean to." "She did, Ethan. You both did. And you're going to pay for it." Then I went inside and locked the door. Over the next 2 weeks, I moved fast. I opened new accounts, froze my credit, and had the fraudulent card flagged. I stopped putting money into the old joint account. I took my name off every utility, subscription, and bill. I even filed a police report just like my lawyer told me to. And then I made one last move. I sent an envelope to Margaret's job. She works at a small dental office in town. Inside was a letter, the police report number, and copies of the credit card application and statements, all with her name listed in the authorized user section. A week later, she was let go. Ethan came home that night and stood in the kitchen, holding the empty bank statement I had left on the fridge. His eyes were wild. "What did you do?" he asked. I shrugged. Just showed the truth. He stood there for a long time, shaking. You ruined everything. No, I said. You did. You did. A week after Margaret lost her job, Ethan served me with papers. He didn't want a divorce, not at first. He wanted to force a legal separation so he could try to claim part of my savings and stall a fraud case. He'd hired a cheap lawyer, someone his mother used before. He thought if he filed first, he'd look like the victim. What he didn't know was that my lawyer had already filed my case, divorce and criminal complaint. And by the time he handed me that envelope, the county clerk had already stamped ours. I let him spin his little fantasy in the living room that night. He sat there ranting about how I'd ruined his life, how his mother didn't deserve this, how I was the one who crossed the line by going behind his back. Then I showed him the thick folder in my hand. Police report, bank logs, text messages, witness, letters from 2 neighbors who overheard Margaret yelling about getting that money before she finds out, and last, my lawyer's contact. He stared at it like it was a bomb about to go off. I already filed, I said, and the DA is looking into pressing charges, not just on her, on you too. He looked like he wanted to hit something or run, but he just collapsed on the couch. I didn't think she'd actually get caught, he mumbled. That was the last honest thing he said to me. In court, Margaret tried to act confused. I didn't know it was in her name, she kept saying. The judge didn't buy it. The application was filled, out by her, in her handwriting. Her signature was sloppy but clear, and Ethan's name was right there as co-signer. The fraud charges stuck. Margaret took a plea deal, probation, a fine, and mandatory financial counseling. She lost her retirement savings trying to keep herself out of jail. She'll never work in dentistry again. Ethan didn't get off easy either. His lawyer dropped him halfway through the case once the text came out. He tried to represent himself, and ended up giving the judge even more evidence to use against him. The judge ruled in my favor on every point: divorce, property division, and damages. He now owes me over $15,000 in restitution and court fees. His credit is wrecked. He had to move back in with Margaret into her 1-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. They barely speak now. I hear she blames him for everything. He blames me. I don't care. I won't pretend I didn't make mistakes. I trusted too easily. I let things slide when I should have drawn a line. I thought marriage meant loyalty no matter what, but now I know better. Now, when I see my bank balance, I smile. When I open my mail, I don't flinch. I bought myself a little house on the other side of town. Quiet street, nice neighbors. I even adopted a dog. Sometimes I hear from people who used to be teammates. They try to say I went too far, that I should have forgiven him, but I don't owe anyone that. They tried to steal from me. I took back everything, and then I took more.